Hi everyone, we're going to find the limit as theta tends to 0 of cosine of theta minus 1 divided by sine of theta. Now, if you recall that if you plug in 0 here, you're going to get undefined because you can't divide by 0. So we want to rewrite this equation and use this fact here that the limit as theta tends to 0 of sine of theta divided by theta equals 1. And I'll just call this equation 1. So the easiest way to do this is just divide each piece by theta. So what I'm going to do is take the limit, just rewriting this equation. Theta approaches 0 in the numerator. I'm going to divide that by cosine of theta minus 1 divided by theta. All right. And then I'm going to have the limit of, well, let me just write it out here, sine of theta divided by theta. So basically I divided the numerator and denominator by theta. So this gives you the limit as theta tends to 0 of cosine of theta minus 1 divided by theta. Now I already did a video on this. So this right here, if you look at a previous video, this equals 0. Okay, for the next one, in fact, I think I'll just attach this video to this one so you can see that. The limit for the denominator, we'll break that up, is theta approaches 0 of sine of theta divided by theta. That equals 1. So basically what you have is you have 0 divided by 1, which equals 0. All right. If you didn't get the first part where I did the limit, theta approaches 0 of cosine of theta minus 1 divided by theta, basically what you're doing is multiplying this by the conjugate, and I already did a video, so I will attach it to this video. So just, if you don't know that, just wait. If you're good, this is done. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye. Hi everyone, we're going to evaluate the limit as theta tends to 0 of cosine theta minus 1 divided by theta. Now we can't just plug in 0 here because that would be undefined. So what our goal is going to be is to use this equation here to help us find the limit. This given. We're going to call this equation 1, and we want to rewrite this by using trig identities to help us find the limit. So the first thing I'm going to do is multiply the numerator by the conjugate. And what I mean is this. So we're going to take the limit as theta tends to 0 of cosine theta minus 1 divided by theta. And we're going to multiply the conjugate by cosine theta plus 1. Now the conjugate just means, and you've seen this in Algebra 2, so if we have a minus b, then the conjugate is just a plus b. And therefore, if you multiply those out, you get a squared minus b squared. So that's our goal. If you multiply the numerator by cosine theta plus 1, you also need to multiply the denominator by cosine theta plus 1, because that just equals 1. All right. So the numerator, we're just using this formula. It's just going to be cosine squared theta minus 1 divided by theta times cosine theta plus 1. Now I'm going to do a little scratch work here for this part. Again, remember our goal, and what I'm going to use is Pythagorean identity here. And I noticed that sine squared theta, if I rewrite that first one, equals 1 minus cosine squared theta. Now, if I negate both sides of the equation, I get negative sine squared theta equals negative 1 minus cosine squared theta. And I'm squeezing it in there, but And that's what this is, because that's negative 1 plus cosine squared theta, which is our numerator. So that's my little scratch work. And so I'm going to rewrite my numerator. Let's write limit as theta tends to 0, and that's going to be negative sine squared theta. Divided by theta times cosine theta plus 1. Okay, the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this negative in the front of my limit, and then I'm going to break up my sine squared as sine theta times sine theta. So what we're going to get is negative limit as theta tends to 0. So this is going to be sine of theta divided by this part, theta, times sine of theta divided by this part, cosine theta plus 1. Okay? Now, why did I do that again? I'm doing that because I want it to look like equation 1 here. So we already know when we take this limit, this is going to equal 1. So the way you're going to break this up is you're going to write negative limit as theta approaches 0 of sine of theta divided by theta times the limit as theta approaches 0 of sine of theta divided by cosine theta plus 1. All right, so now we have our negative, and if you take this part, this just equals 1. So that's 1 times, now plug in your 0 here, so sine of 0 equals 0, and cosine of 0 equals 1. So you're going to get 1 plus 1. So that gives you negative 1 times 0, which equals 0. And that's it. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.